"That's just our maid. She cleans and does laundry, nothing important." My stepdaughter Brooke announced to her medical school friends when they'd stopped by unexpectedly and found me vacuuming the living room in yoga pants and an old t-shirt. My dad married her because he needed help around the house after my mom died. The friends had nodded with the particular sympathy reserved for awkward domestic situations while I'd continued vacuuming, having learned over 7 years that engaging with Brooke's cruelty only escalated it. What Brooke didn't know, what she'd never bothered to discover because she'd decided who I was the moment her father brought me home, was that the woman she'd spent 7 years dismissing as the maid had a PhD in biochemistry from Stanford, 14 published research papers, and a very close professional relationship with someone who would soon hold her medical career in his hands. The maid narrative had started at our first meeting. I'd been introduced to Brooke when she was 16. A grieving teenager who'd lost her mother to cancer 2 years earlier and wasn't ready to accept anyone in her mother's place. I'd understood that. I'd given her space, tried not to push, hoped time would soften her hostility. Instead, she'd constructed an elaborate fiction. In Brooke's version of reality, I wasn't her stepmother. I was the household staff. Her father had married beneath him because he needed someone to manage domestic responsibilities while he focused on his surgical practice. I had no education, no career, no identity beyond serving the household. She'd told this story so consistently, to so many people, that it had taken on the weight of truth. Her high school friends believed it. Her college roommates believed it. Now her medical school cohort believed it. And I'd let her. My husband Nathan knew the truth, of course. He'd married me because we'd fallen in love at a medical conference. He was a cardiac surgeon. I was presenting research on regenerative tissue engineering. We'd bonded over shared passions for science and medicine, built a relationship on intellectual partnership and genuine affection. But Nathan was also a devoted father who'd lost his first wife and couldn't bear to create conflict with his only daughter. When Brooke started her campaign of diminishment, he'd asked me to be patient. "She's still grieving. She'll come around. It's been 3 years, Nathan. She tells everyone I'm the maid. She's young. She's hurting. Just give her time." I'd given her time. 7 years of time. 7 years of being introduced as domestic help. 7 years of having my career, my education, my entire identity erased by a girl who couldn't accept that her father had moved on. I'd tolerated it because I loved Nathan, because I understood grief, because I believed that eventually Brooke would mature enough to see me as a person. But patience has limits. The dean of medicine at Brooke's school was Dr. William Chin. William and I had been research partners at Johns Hopkins for 4 years before I'd shifted to private industry. We'd co-authored 6 papers together, including one that had been cited over 3,000 times in subsequent literature. When he'd been appointed dean at State Medical School, I'd sent a congratulatory card. We'd had lunch twice a year since then, maintaining the kind of professional friendship that develops between people who've worked intensely together. I knew William had the power to shape medical careers. I also knew he valued integrity above almost everything else. When Brooke announced she needed a recommendation from the dean for a competitive residency program, I'd recognized the collision approaching. "He only writes recommendations for students he knows personally," she'd complained over dinner. "I need to make an impression somehow." "What kind of impression?" Nathan asked. "I don't know. Something that makes me stand out. Maybe I can mention my volunteer work or my research interest." She'd glanced at me briefly. The maid, sitting at the family dinner table, apparently invisible despite being present for the entire conversation. "Good luck," I'd said quietly. She hadn't thanked me. She never thanked me for anything. The email I sent to William was factual. I didn't embellish or dramatize. I simply told him the truth, that his student Brooke Morrison was my stepdaughter, that for 7 years she had introduced me to everyone, including her medical school peers, as the maid to avoid the embarrassment of having a stepmother, and that I thought he should know the character of the person seeking his recommendation. I included specifics. Dates when I'd overheard her explanations to friends. Quotes she'd used. The systematic, sustained campaign to erase my identity and reduce me to domestic servitude in the eyes of everyone she knew. I sent the email the day before Brooke's scheduled meeting with William. Then I waited. The confrontation happened 3 days later. Brooke came home from campus ashen-faced, trembling with a rage I'd never seen before. She'd stormed into the kitchen where I was preparing dinner, doing maid work, as she'd have described it, and slammed her bag on the counter. You destroyed me. I told the truth. You emailed Dean Chen. You told him I called you the maid. He asked me about it in our meeting. He asked me if I'd really spent 7 years pretending my stepmother was household staff. What did you tell him? What could I tell him? He knew everything. He said you were his research partner. He said you're one of the most brilliant scientists he's ever worked with. He said he was deeply disappointed to learn how I'd treated you. Her voice cracked. He's not writing my recommendation. He said he can't recommend someone whose character he questions. Then you should work on your character. You ruined my residency chances. You ruined your residency chances. 7 years ago, when you decided to tell everyone I was the maid. Every lie you told, every time you erased my identity, every moment you chose cruelty over basic human decency. That's what ruined your chances. I was grieving. You were 16, then 17, then 18, then 23. At what point does grief stop excusing deliberate cruelty? Nathan arrived home to find us in a standoff. His instinct, as always, was to mediate, to smooth things over, to find a compromise that let everyone save face. But this time, there was no compromise available. Mira, you should have talked to me before contacting William. Why? So you could ask me to be patient again? So you could tell me Brooke is still grieving, still adjusting, still needs time. This affects her career. My career was affected too. My identity was affected. For 7 years, your daughter has told everyone who will listen that I'm domestic help. She's introduced me to professors, doctors, future colleagues, all of them believing I'm illiterate hired help. She didn't mean. She meant exactly what she said. Every single time. I turned to Brooke. You want to be a doctor. You want to heal people, earn their trust, hold their lives in your hands. But you couldn't extend basic respect to the woman who's lived in your home for 7 years. You couldn't see me as a person worth knowing. You're not my mother. I never tried to be. I never asked you to call me mom or pretend I'd replaced her. I just wanted to be treated like a human being. You couldn't manage even that. The weeks that followed were the most honest period in our family's history. Without the option of smoothing things over, we were forced to actually address what had happened. Nathan finally heard the full scope of Brooke's campaign. The specific incidents, the quotes, the sustained effort to diminish me. I didn't realize it was this systematic, he admitted. You didn't want to realize. Every time I tried to tell you, you changed the subject. You asked me to be patient. You prioritized Brooke's comfort over my dignity. I was trying to keep the peace. You were trying to avoid conflict. Those aren't the same thing. Peace requires justice. You just wanted quiet. It was the hardest conversation of our marriage. But it was also the most necessary. Brooke eventually reached out. Not immediately. She'd spent the first month convinced I was the villain, that I'd deliberately sabotaged her career out of spite. But as the shock faded, something else emerged. Dean Chen said I should talk to you, she said, sitting across from me in the living room. He said you'd be fair. William knows me better than you do, apparently. He said you're brilliant. He said your research changed his understanding of tissue regeneration. He showed me some of your papers. She paused. I didn't know you were a scientist. You never asked. I know. I saw you cleaning the house, cooking dinner, doing laundry. I assumed. You assumed what you wanted to assume. It was easier to believe I was nobody than to accept that your father had found someone worth loving after your mother died. That's not. It is. I understood your grief. I gave you space. I never tried to replace your mother or compete with her memory. But you couldn't accept even coexistence. You needed me to be nothing. So you told everyone I was nothing. Brooke was crying now. I'm sorry. Sorry that you did it, or sorry that you got caught? Both. I think both. She wiped her eyes. I've been thinking about what Dean Chen said. About character. About how the way we treat people when we think it doesn't matter reveals who we really are. And who are you, Brooke? I don't know anymore. I thought I was going to be a good doctor. Someone who cares about patients, who treats everyone with dignity. But I couldn't treat my own stepmother with dignity. What does that say about me? It says you have work to do. On yourself. Before you try to help anyone else. The residency application process moved forward eventually. Dean Chen didn't write Brooke's recommendation, but he did something perhaps more valuable. He offered her a chance to demonstrate changed character through a mentorship program for underserved students. If she completed a year of that program with genuine commitment, he'd reconsider. It's not the fast track anymore, she told me. But maybe that's okay. Maybe I need to earn things instead of expecting them. That's the most mature thing you've ever said. I learned it from watching you. You didn't fight back for 7 years. You just kept being excellent at what you do. You let your work speak for itself. I also sent a very detailed email to your dean. Yeah, she almost smiled. That too. Our relationship now is different from anything I'd expected. We're not close. 7 years of hostility doesn't transform into warmth overnight. But we're honest. Brooke knows who I am now. She's read my research, met my colleagues, seen the life I had before I married her father. I wasted so much time hating you, she said recently. I could have learned so much from you. You can still learn. I'm not going anywhere. Even after everything I did, family is complicated. You're Nathan's daughter. You're going to be a doctor someday. That makes you part of my life, whether we like it or not. The question is whether we make that relationship meaningful or just tolerable. I want it to be meaningful. Then earn it. The way you're earning Dean Chen's respect. Through actions, not apologies. Last month, Brooke introduced me to a new friend from her mentorship program. This is Mira, she said. My stepmother. She's a biochemist. She actually worked with Dean Chen years ago. She's one of the smartest people I know. The friend's eyes widened. You're Dr. Mira Santos? I've read your paper on regenerative scaffolding. That research is foundational. Thank you. That's kind. After her friend left, Brooke looked at me. That's the first time I've introduced you properly. To anyone. Ever. I noticed. It felt good. Better than I expected. Truth usually does. Eventually. My stepdaughter told her medical school friends I was just the maid. For 7 years, I let her believe I was nobody. Then she needed something from Dean Chen, and the truth came out, all of it. Some people would say I was petty, that I should have corrected her lies directly instead of letting them accumulate until they destroyed her opportunity. Maybe they're right. But I think there's value in letting people reveal themselves fully before you reveal yourself to them. Brooke spent 7 years showing me exactly who she was when she thought I was powerless. That knowledge is valuable now, as we try to build something real. She's learning that character matters more than credentials. That how you treat people when you think it doesn't count is exactly when it counts most. That the maid she dismissed might have connections, knowledge, and influence she never imagined. These are lessons every doctor needs to learn. I'm glad I could help teach them, even if the curriculum was 7 years long.